Namaskar and welcome to our program. Our guest today is really very special. She has dedicated herself to the service of humanity. Her spiritual journey is as inspiring as it is fascinating. We are delighted and honored to have on our program today Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati. Sadhvi ji, namaskar.
Namaskar.
And welcome to our program.
It's such an honor to be here.
साध्वी जी, हम हमेशा कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत करते हैं एक विचार से, thought of the day. And because you're here in the program today, why don't you give us a thought for the day?
How about seva as sadhana? Usually हमको लगता है कि we have seva and sadhana. But actually, seva is sadhana, if it's real. क्योंकि जब मैं serve करती हूँ, if it's real seva, I'm not serving as separate. I'm serving myself in you. I'm seeing this divine self, जिसके ऊपर मैं ध्यान करती हूँ, जिसको मैं प्रार्थना करती हूँ. That capital S self, I'm seeing in you. So I'm serving from a place of oneness, not a place of separation. So seva becomes the sadhana. Through the service, I attain this experience, this awareness, this connection of oneness that usually we attain sitting with our legs crossed in a dark room and our eyes closed on a cushion. But we can attain it just as well with our eyes open, with our hands in service. Because through seva, I'm truly seeing God, seeing the capital S self in the one I'm serving.
That is how the expansion of consciousness happens.
Absolutely. And for most of us, tragically, that's something that just happens sitting on our pillows or on our yoga mats. But we have too little time in our day to sit on our cushions for very long or to be on our yoga mats for very long. लेकिन यदि हम लोग जो हम करेंगे, जितना सेवा हम कर सकेंगे, अगर इसको साधना मानने लगेंगे, we take that as sadhana. So I'm not serving you as separate. I'm serving the divine in you. Then that is my meditation. That is my prayer. That is my yoga. And then 24 hours a day, बैठते हुए, खड़े होते हुए, चलते हुए, I'm able to be in meditation and prayer and yoga.
बहुत सुंदर बात आपने कही. लेकिन साध्वी जी, जो लोग गृहस्थ हैं या दुनियादार हैं, उनके लिए या तो साधना करना या सेवा करना या दोनों को एक दूसरे का पर्याय मानकर चलना बहुत मुश्किल होता है. तो वो किस तरह से सेवा करें या किस तरह से साधना करें?
देखिए, उपनिषद में हमको बताया ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वं यत् किंच जगत्याम जगत. It means everything in the universe is pervaded by the divine. There's nothing, no one, nowhere not pervaded by the divine. That means also your husband. That means also your wife. That means also your mother-in-law. That means also your children. So, chahe grahast ho, chahe sannyas ho, that teaching is the same.
Right.
Whoever we meet, whether I'm meeting somebody else on the banks of Ganga where we're doing meditation, whether I'm meeting the checkout clerk at the grocery store, whether I'm meeting the guy who pumps the gas in my car, whether I'm meeting an employee, an employer. In all of them is the divine. There's no stipulations in the Upanishads. It doesn't say, well, but God is in everyone except your mother-in-law. Or God is in everyone except your annoying employees.
Right.
Or except your over-demanding boss. In everyone, matlab, in everyone. So to see that, to respond to that, becomes our sadhana. And to serve them. Because seva is service. And so, of course, whether we're serving the hungry by feeding them, whether we're serving the sick by treating them with medicines or health care, whether we're serving the earth by planting trees, by cleaning the trash, by taking care of our water, or whether we're serving our family members. It's all serving that oneness. Vasudev Kutumbakam. The world is a family. Iska matlab nahi hai ki except for my individual family. The world is a family except for that which is in your four walls. No. The world is a family including your four walls. But also outside of your four walls. For most of us, we think of service just in our families. But the goal is to make the world your family. And interestingly, जब संन्यास की बात आई, आपने गृहस्थ की बात कही, but जब संन्यास की बात आती, we talk about renouncing the families. But we renounce just so that the world can be a family. It's not, I don't care about you. It's, I care about all. It's not, I'm not connected to you. It's, I'm connected to all. So that vishesh roop, that sense of you are more dear to me, you are closer to me, you are more connected to me. That's what we renounce.
जो मोह है उसको निकाल देते हैं.
Exactly, exactly. But the greatest and most enlightened spiritual masters are those whose life is service. They're not the ones who say, "Acha, aap गिर गए, कोई बात नहीं, वो तो आपकी कर्म होगी." They're not the ones where in front of them somebody's ailing and they say, "Dekho, मैं कितनी detached हूँ, वैराग्य देखा मेरे." They're the ones who immediately reach down to help. They're the ones who take the shirts off their backs. They're the ones who work not 9 to 5, 5 days a week, but morning to night, 7 days a week. So the world becomes your family. Really, Vasudev Kutumbakam. These are not just lines in our scriptures. These are lines for our life. And when that happens, then the service becomes automatic. It's like if I trip and I fall and I hurt my right leg. Well, then my left leg is going to pick up the extra weight. We call it limping. Right? But nobody had to say, "Oh, great, wonderful left leg, humanitarian left leg. Would you mind thoda sa seva karni hai?" It does it automatically because it understands the right leg is self. If my arm itches and I scratch it, nobody had to say, "Oh, great arm, please, bas thodi der ke liye खुजली हो रही है, scratch करो इसको."
वो automatic हो जाता है.
Automatic kyun? Because of oneness. Our problem is we feel separate. When we talk about apana, that's limited. 1 or 2 or 4. But the point of a spiritual path is not to disconnect yourself even from those 1 or 2 or 4, but to connect yourself to all. Because in all is the divine. That upon which we meditate. That to whom we pray. Jinki jap hum karte hain. वो तो God lives in all.
लेकिन जो ईश्वर जिनका हम जप करते हैं, सब में रहते हैं, तो वो हमारा कई बार ऐसे टेस्ट क्यों लेते हैं कि as you said, the mother-in-law or people who irritate us or upset us or cause anger in us, ऐसा क्यों होता है?
मैं पर्सनली ऐसे नहीं मानती हूँ कि भगवान हमारे टेस्ट ले रहे हैं. But what we know is that the reason we're put here on earth, Jivan ka laksh. Most of us think Jivan ki laksh is as happy as I can be, as peaceful as I can be, as rich as I can be, as successful as I can be, as beautiful as I can be, right? As fair as I can be, as this as I can be. But wo kahin nahi likha hua hai. Thou shalt be always unruffled.
Right.
Thou shalt never be frustrated. Thou shalt be rich. वो कहीं शास्त्र में नहीं लिखा हुआ है. What we are told the point of our life is to recognize the divinity within ourselves, to recognize that we are divine, that God lives within us, and that connection to the world. And therefore, we get these tests not because God is sitting up there having some joke at our expense and saying, "Dekho, dekho, main kya kar raha hu usko." Not like that. But because in order for us to take our next step, in order for us to peel back another layer, like the onion peels back the layers, we need to go through these trials. We need to go through these hurdles. If I can't see God in my mother-in-law, how am I going to see God in the 7 billion other humans and God knows how many other species?
Yeah.
And that's the goal, is to see God in all. So we begin at home. The toughest trials are always at home, but that's where we have to start. And then we take it into the world. So it's there for a reason. It's there for a purpose. It's there for us to learn a lesson. And whenever we find ourselves really frustrated, really annoyed, rather than think about how can I get out of this situation, rather than think ki Bhagwan mera test kyun le rahe, what we need to ask ourselves is, how can I learn the lesson that this moment is trying to teach me? It's been given to me for a reason. It's been given to me taki I can take the next step closer to God, so that I can unfold, I can unpeel. You know, there's the beautiful metaphor, you think of the piece of clay sitting on the potter's wheel, and it goes around and around and around. जरूर चक्कर आते होगा उसको.
हाँ, dizzy हो जाता.
Dizzy हो जाता. And the potter is doing what? मारते उसको. कभी-कभी जोर से भी मारते. Stick its fingers in it, grab it, squeeze it, pinch it. Why? Taki it can become something. Because in that lump of clay, the artist sees a beautiful vase. The artist sees art. The artist sees divinity. We see a lump of clay. And in the same way in our lives, जब भी हमको लगता है I'm being spun around, चक्कर आ रहे मुझे, why is the world hitting me so much? Why is it that on every turn I get slapped or pinched or squeezed? We need to ask ourselves, ki, what is God trying to make me into? What is God seeing in this lump of clay that I can't see? And then, after the potter does it, फिर क्या करते?
उसको fire करता है.
Fire करते. Sticks it in the oven so that it stays. And the same thing is in our lives. जब भी हमको लगता है कि really we are in the heat, in that fire, in the oven, that's when we know कि God has stuck us in the kiln.
So we are ready now.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
क्योंकि सोना भी तो तप कर कुंदन बनता है.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is how it works. Otherwise we just stay lumps of clay.
इसमें कर्म का कितना रोल होता है?
Karma has a huge role in it. देखिए, हम जो करते हैं, जो कर्म हम करते हैं, उसकी फल तो आ जाते हैं. But typically most of us, when we talk about good karma, bad karma, It's like God was somehow sitting up there, like a teacher or like Santa Claus, or you know, God knows if you've been good or bad.
Yeah.
You're going to get presents or you're going to get spanks. It's not like that. There's no such thing as good karma, bad karma. We take it like that. We put our subjective labels on things. We say rich is good, poor is bad. Health is good, sickness is bad. Success is good, failure is bad. The universe doesn't say that. In fact, in our scriptures, the most divine people, शबरी को देखे, भगवान खुद चल के उनके पास गए, जहाँ ना सुंदरता होती, nor wealth, but that inner divinity. So the karma, when we think about karma, it's not, oh, you're beautiful, therefore you did something very good, you've been rewarded. Oh, you're poor, you must have done something bad, you've been punished. ऐसे नहीं है. There's two aspects. Aspect one, that which we do, we get the result. I plant an apple seed, I get an apple tree. I plant a peach seed, I get a peach tree. Now the universe has no preference, apples over peaches. The universe loves apples and peaches as much as roses and jasmine. It's us who say, oh God, I hate my apple tree. I'm allergic to apples. I wasn't supposed to have apples. I was supposed to have peaches instead. And then हमको लगता है कि this apple tree is bad karma. Somehow I've been punished. No. If I have an apple tree today, इसका मतलब है कि in my life or in my past lives, कहीं ना कहीं I've planted an apple seed. And if I want peaches tomorrow, it's not about standing over my apple tree, chanting peach mantras, doing peach prayers, singing peach songs. It's about finding out, ये peach की बीज कहाँ से मिलते हैं? How can I plant a peach seed? ताकि कल, instead of this apple tree I don't like, I can actually have a peach tree. But in the meantime, there's something else I can do, which is I pray to God, not, oh, give me a peach tree instead, but oh God, remove my allergy to these apples.
बहुत सुंदर.
This is what I've gotten. This is the fruit of my karma. Rather than change that, मेरा allergy को थोड़ा सा दूर कर दो. And अगर allergy दूर नहीं कर सकते, तो कम से कम let me reach out to the school children nearby and invite them to come to my house and fill their baskets with apples. Let me learn to make apple pie and apple jam, ताकि मैं दूसरों को खिला दूं. So that which I have today is the fruit of the karma I did in the past. But that which I have tomorrow is the fruit of the karma I'm doing today. So this is the role that karma plays in all of this. And if I'm planting seeds of joy, of peace, of meaning in life, of fulfillment, of connection, of love, of cooperation, those are the trees that are going to grow in my yard. But if I'm planting seeds of separation, of competition, of criticism, of judgment, of me, those are the trees I'm going to get.
आपने ये जो कहा, ये इस पर लोगों को विचार करना चाहिए. और क्यों ना जब तक लोग विचार करते हैं हम छोटा सा एक ब्रेक ले लेते हैं. हम बस अभी लौटते हैं.
सरिता जी, इन दिनों आप अपने खान पान का ध्यान तो रखती हैं ना? अरे ये क्या, भोजन में साधारण नमक? आयोडीन युक्त नमक का इस्तेमाल करें. आपके शरीर में आयोडीन की कमी से आपका शिशु शारीरिक और मानसिक रूप से कमजोर हो सकता है। आयोडीन नमक इन सारी परेशानियों से आपको बचा सकता है। ये नमक बाजार में आसानी से उपलब्ध है। बच्चों को हंसता खेलता बचपन दें, अपनी संतान का भविष्य संवारें।
सवारी जिंदगी चुटकी भर नमक, आयोडीन नमक।
Welcome back to our program. Our guest today is the eminent Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati. Program में आगे बढ़ने से पहले I want to know about your personal journey as well. क्योंकि वो अपने आप में एक बहुत ही रोमांटिक सा एक फेज रहा है आपके लिए.
My journey is not actually my journey. मुझे लगता है it's a journey of grace. A journey of opening to the grace. And I mention that because, yes, of course, it's romantic.
Yeah.
It's been a romance of me and God, a romance of me and Ganga. I remember शुरू में जब मैं आई, लोग naturally पूछते रहते हैं कि, but don't you want to be married? And I used to say, oh, I'm married to Ganga. And एक दिन एक छोटा सा लड़का ने मुझे बोला, you can't marry Ganga. Ganga's a girl. So tab se I've kept this romance inside. But it has been. Yeah. It's been a romantic journey. But what's important is it's a journey that's possible for everyone. It's not just ki dekhe unki romantic, fascinating journey. For me, I came here in 1996. Almost 21 years ago.
और जब आप आई थी तब you had not come searching for spirituality.
I had not, unfortunately. I would love to say I had. I would love to say कि मैं रात दिन यहाँ ढूंढ रही थी. But I wasn't. Mainly because I didn't know there was something to search for.
Right.
I came from California, from Los Angeles. Puja Swamiji hamesha कहते हैं कि Hollywood to Hollywoods, because I grew up in Hollywood. And I had graduated from Stanford University. I was doing my PhD. I was very focused. I was on a track. And on a track that we're told, this is what you need to be happy in life. You need a good education. You need to make money. You need to have a house in this area of town. You need to have a picket fence that's of this height. Yeah. You need to get invited to the right parties. You need to look the right way in the right clothes. And so when you have those things, we were what I now call happy by default, where we had all of the things that we were supposed to have to be happy. What I didn't know was what real joy is about. और यहाँ इंडिया में आके backpack लेके, just we took a semester, one semester off of a PhD program to come and travel. And that too is so funny because मुझे कुछ मालूम नहीं था भारत के बारे में.
आपको सिर्फ वेजिटेरियन फूड पता था.
आज आप सुनिए. Yes, exactly, exactly. And I had been बचपन से a vegetarian. तो मैंने हाँ इसलिए किया था इंडिया आने का, because I used to fight with waiters in restaurants all the time. कि what is in your broth? ठीक है, soup is vegetable, but आपका जो broth है, there's no like chicken stock or beef stock or इसकी bouillon or इसकी seasoning, salad dressings, सब कुछ. And it was hard enough in America in English. It was very difficult. I used to travel in Europe a lot, dealing in countries with languages you don't speak. So India, jab India ki baat aayi, I knew at least I won't have to grill waiters in a language I don't speak about what's in the food. To maine haan kiya tha. And Rishikesh was the first place we went. Delhi mein I opened a guidebook and said Rishikesh. Rishikesh aake.
वो भी सहज में.
हाँ, बस ऐसे वो, it was 96, so there was not Google.
हाँ.
So we were sitting in Delhi and thought कि यहाँ से कहाँ जाएं? I studied yoga already. I loved the mountains. I was always a nature person. तो हमको लगता कि दिल्ली से नज़दीक भी है. पहाड़ भी होते, नदी भी होती, योग भी होते, तो चलो ऋषिकेश चले. We
और
had
वो जो
never
आपका
heard of it.
वन मोमेंट था जब पहली बार आप ऋषिकेश पहुंची और गंगा से पहली बार मिली.
I got to Ganga. मुझे लगा जस्ट मुझे गर्मी लग रही है. I'm gonna go freshen up, put my feet in the water. I stood on the banks of Ganga. उनकी दर्शन हुई, मतलब पूरा दर्शन हुई. And I burst into tears. I had come home. And of course they weren't sad tears, but they weren't even happy tears. They were tears of the truth. Tears of being in the presence of the divine. Tears of really having come home. I wasn't expecting a spiritual awakening. I wasn't looking for it. And this is why I say it's a journey of grace. My journey, matlab, I had a list and plans and points. I had none of that. Grace had it all. And it happened. And suddenly I was sitting on the banks of Ganga with ecstatic tears just pouring down my face in a state of such meditation. But I didn't even know that word really. And from then on, I knew this is where I'm meant to be. On the banks of Ganga, with Ganga. I didn't know how or where. I hadn't had Puja Swamiji's darshan yet. But I knew this is where my life is meant to be. And I looked around at the children. Jinke paas kuch bhi nahi tha. But they had a light in their eyes and a smile that no one I knew growing up in America had had. And I realized India has a secret. And it is a secret that brings light to the eyes of people. Jinke paas chappal bhi nahi hoti. That brings light to the eyes of the women carrying pounds of firewood on their head. ऋषिकेश में आप किसी से पूछो, अच्छा आप कैसे हैं? सब भगवान की कृपा, सब गंगा की कृपा, सब पूज्य स्वामी जी की कृपा, जिनके पास कुछ भी नहीं होते. And where I was from, we had everything. But जब कोई पूछते हैं, how are you? It's always a litany of, अच्छा ये हो गया, oh my God, this problem, that problem. So I realized there's a secret here. और मुझे यहाँ रहना है.
गंगा से इतना नज़दीक का आपका रिश्ता है, आपने उसका स्वरूप देखा है और अब तो कोर्ट्स ने भी इंडिया में कह दिया है that the Ganga and the other rivers in India should be treated like as a person,
Yes.
you know, personified. तो इस तरफ भी आपका बहुत काम चल रहा है कि गंगा शुद्ध रहे, स्वच्छ रहे. उसके बारे में कुछ बात बताएं.
बिल्कुल. First of all, it's important to mention कि जब हम कहते हैं with the courts that Ganga should have the rights of a person.
Right.
This is not from a religious standpoint. मेरी खुद जो दर्शन हुई, that was just by the grace of God. That's been from my life. The anchor, the grounding. But जो काम हम कर रहे, चाहे court के साथ, चाहे इतनी other organizations के साथ, so many partners के साथ, that's not from a religious standpoint. It's not कि you have to see Ganga as the goddess, therefore give her rights. It's not that. It's that nature has rights.
Right.
As a being, as a living being. And the people who live on the banks of Ganga, 500 million of them, have rights. I'll give you an example. I have freedom, right? That's what the government gives me. Life, liberty, government gives it, courts give it, laws give it. I have freedom. I can do this with my hand all I want. I can do this with my hand all I want. Jab tak your face is not here.
Right.
The minute this is your nose, I no longer can do this. Because my freedom to do this ends with your right not to be hit in the nose begins. So there is a point where my freedom ends because your rights begin. And this is what we've been trying to bring into the courts, is people's freedom to dump their trash where they want it. Industry's freedom for profit at all costs. Let the waste go in the soil, let the waste go into the groundwater, let it get into the rivers. That freedom to run my company how I want to run it, to do with my trash what I want to do with it, to do with my sewage what I want to do with it, to defecate wherever I feel like defecating. That freedom ends where the right of this river begins, and where the rights of all my brothers and sisters living downstream who depend on Ganga, not for moksha, not for darshan, not for spiritual connection, but for the water they drink, for the water they cook with, for the water they bathe in, for the water that irrigates their fields. So the rights of nature to live and to exist, that is a crucial right. And that's where we've been working for such a long time to get these laws passed. And they should be like that, because nature is alive. And just because we are the ones who we think have the power, I have the power to do this, doesn't mean jahan main karna chahti hu main wahi karne lagu. Anybody's nose who comes in the meantime, koi baat nahi. Let them get hit. That's not the way of a civilized society. It's not the way of a dharmic society. Koi bhi dharma aap follow karenge. There's no dharma that says you have the right to trample on others.
और ये तब जबकि हमारे देश में नदियों को पूजा जाता है देवी की तरह, पर्यावरण को भी पूजा जाता है, वन देवता हैं, देवियां हैं, उसके बावजूद ये हो रहा है.
देखिए गंगा जी रोज हमारे आश्रम में परमार्थ निकेतन में पूज्य स्वामी जी ने वहाँ शुरू किया. He also started in so many other places, in Gangotri and Badrinath and Uttarkashi and Jwalapur and Kanpur and Varanasi, इतनी cities. गंगा जी की आरती, जैसे आपने कहा लोग गंगा जी की पूजा करते हैं, तो जहाँ हम आरती करते हैं, जहाँ पूजा करते हैं, इसका मतलब है कि this is a temple.
Right.
We're doing puja, we're doing arti to the divine. इसका मतलब है कि गंगा जी is a 2500 kilometer बहते हुए मंदिर. Now you think, could anybody imagine, of any religion, could anybody imagine walking into their local temple, local mandir, local gurdwara, local mosque, local church, and saying to the people, अच्छा मेरा वो गार्ड में कूड़ादान नहीं है, क्या मैं यहाँ डालूं? अच्छा मेरा वो sewage line नहीं है, क्या मैं अपने गार्ड की sewage यहाँ में लगा दूं, ताकि on the floor of your mandir, on the floor of your gurdwara, on the floor of your church, on the floor of your mosque, my household sewage could flow. मतलब सोचने is also sacrilege.
Yeah.
कहने तो बहुत दूर की बात है. Nobody could imagine. But Ganga Ji is a 2500 kilometer behte hue mandir. So we have to take her like that also. Devi Gange Prasida 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 Namami Gange Namami Gange Namami Gange
What is the kind of success you think you have achieved in this path?
We've achieved, really by God's grace, by Ganga's grace, with Puja Swamiji's vision and leadership and blessings, so much.
Yeah.
Where nobody was talking about these things. Suddenly, it's become a household word. Where so many people these days come and they haven't been in Rishikesh in a few years and they say, my God, kitna change ho gaya. There's been so much success on so many levels. And of course, with our Honorable Prime Minister now making this
Namami Gange.
Namami Gange a national agenda. And what we have seen is when you help people understand the reasons, they connect. I'll give you one example. जब मैं पहले आई भारत में मैंने एक चीज़ देखी गंगा के किनारे कि people would come इतने भाव से मंत्र बोल के पूजा करके they'd offer flowers to Ganga, but they'd offer those flowers in the plastic bag that the flowers came in, and people would look at them and they'd say unko padi nahi hai, fark nahi padta, they don't care, they're indifferent. But what I realized is that's impossible. Yadi unko padi nahi hoti, wo aate nahi, they would have stayed home.
Yeah.
So many poor people come, they spend their last rupees, they travel by bus, by rickshaw, by bullock cart, by foot to get there. Clearly they care.
Yeah.
If they didn't care, they wouldn't spend their lunch money on flowers. They'd buy lunch instead.
Yeah.
But unko kya lagta कि गंगा तो is the goddess. गंगा हमारे पाप धुलते हैं. She cleans our sins. How can you say a plastic bag pollutes her? And then you have to realize from an education standpoint what your messages look like. And you can't talk about Ganga polluted, you can't talk about Ganga as defiled or tainted, because Ganga is the goddess.
Yeah.
And people take it really the wrong way. Then they feel like you're the ones who don't understand. And so what we've done is we've had to just change the messaging. कि ठीक है, गंगा जी तो है भगवान, हम भी मानते हैं. उनका मोक्ष देने का शक्ति is not impacted at all. As much sewage as you throw in, as much trash, it doesn't change her moksha dene wali shakti. In the same way that if your mother were out for a walk and she falls in the mud puddle or she falls in the sewer, she's still your mother.
She's still my mother, yeah.
Her blessings are still just as powerful.
True.
And yet, so you don't talk about Ganga as polluted, Ganga as tainted. Ganga is unpollutable. The goddess is unpollutable.
But the river,
undefilable. But unka jo roop hai, this river, this form that our sisters and brothers depend upon. They depend upon her not for moksha, they depend upon the form.
Right. In fact, that's another thing I want to talk to you, because you've done so much work for WASH. What is this all about?
We've been working in so many areas for decades. Schools, women, ladkiyan, healthcare.
Your Shakti Foundation,
Divine Shakti Foundation, so many other foundations.
Right.
Under Puja Swamiji's leadership, we've been doing so much. But what we realized is that water, sanitation, hygiene, WASH, underlies so much of it. You build schools, beautiful schools, computer centers. But almost 25% of girls in this nation drop out of school the minute they hit puberty.
Right.
Because there's no clean, safe, dignified place for them to take care of themselves when they're menstruating. So if you're not simultaneously bringing toilets, you're not simultaneously giving menstrual hygiene.
Right.
Jitna bada, jitna sundar aapki computer center hota, you're still losing almost 25% of the girls. We do all of this women's empowerment work. But the women of this nation, who are defecating outside, hundreds of millions of them. So what we realized is all of this upliftment, all of this empowerment, you can train these ladies all you want, give them vocational training all you want. But if in the night they're being attacked, and if all day they're dehydrated, they're malnourished, and they're children, the children of this nation who are stunted, whose brains will never fully develop, however much education you give them. So we've realized we're still doing everything else, of course, but that wash has to be the underlying, the foundation of everything.
And I hope that very soon it will be effective in our country.
It's already happening. Yeah. It's already happening. Yeah. Every day here, sadly, 1,600 children under the age of 5 are perishing simply due to lack of water, sanitation, hygiene. And yet, everybody's coming together.
The other thing that where you've been putting a lot of stress is yoga. You've been a yoga practitioner, but health और hygiene के साथ साथ ये भी आपके लिए एक मुहिम की तरह है. इंटरनेशनल योगा डे आप बहुत बड़े स्केल पे करती हैं, उसके बारे में थोड़ी बात करते हैं.
Yoga means union.
जी.
ये इसका मतलब है. Sadly, विदेश में लोगों को लगता है it's the union of my nose to my knees, the union of my fingers to my toes,
right.
The union of my head to the ground.
To be some sort of a contortionist.
Exactly. कि बस physical postures.
जी.
But yoga is actually that which connects us. Body, mind, spirit connects us to the divine within ourselves and in the world, connects us to the creator and to the creation, which means, as we began when we were talking about seva as sadhana, it means that yoga is not just what you do on the mat. Yoga is how you live. Yoga is what you do every minute of your day. Are you living from a place of separation, me versus you, me in competition with you? Or are we living from a place of oneness, from Vasudev Kutumbakam, from a place of realizing that we're all one? Mahatma Gandhi said so beautifully, there's always enough for everyone's need and never enough for even one man's greed. This is yoga, and this is the yoga that our world needs. Just we had our International Yoga Festival at Parmarth last month in March. Hardasal, March 1st to 7th, International Yoga Festival. This saal we had people from 101 nations joining together on the banks of Ganga at Parmarth Nikatan, doing yoga. Here on the banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the Himalayas, in the birthplace of yoga, where for thousands of years saints and sages and rishis came together to practice their yoga.
एक तरफ तो यूनियन की बात है जो बहुत खूबसूरत है, जो इस शरीर को परमात्मा के साथ जोड़ती है, लेकिन एक तरफ वो भी है जो इस शरीर को सुंदर रखता है, टू कीप द इंस्ट्रूमेंट हेल्थी. उसके लिए ऐसी कौन सी बातें हैं जिसका एक आम आदमी को ध्यान रखना चाहिए, जिसे हम आम भाषा में कहें तो फिटनेस टिप्स कह सकते हैं?
सबसे जरूरी फिटनेस इज जो अंदर की फिटनेस.
जी.
There's a beautiful saying in English, smile. It improves your face value.
True.
So what we know is that a smiling face, shining eyes, that's what beauty is. That's what real beauty is. And that's what real health is. These days, new research is coming from top research institutions about the role that things like anger play, not just on our emotional health, but on our immune systems, on our bodies. The role that pain and frustration and sadness, anguish, despair play on our physical health. So yoga is that, right? That brings us joy, that brings us friendship, connection, that brings us contentment. So that gives us not just physical beauty, but actually the greatest health. And through doing yoga, yes, of course, the body gets strong, but even more, the mind becomes shant. And for that, you don't need fancy asanas. You don't need advanced acrobats.
Right.
What you need is just any posture. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagawan Krishna speaks to us about the asan. Now he's talking about the asan jiske upar hum baithte hain. But he uses the word asan. He talks about how high it should be, how low it should be, what it should be made of. And after that, he says, once you are established in asan, now you are ready to begin the practice of yoga. Now this is really powerful. It means the asana is not the yoga. It means it's important. We must be established, firm, stable. But that's just so that we can begin the practice of yoga. To koi bhi asan chun lo.
The other thing that gives joy and peace to the mind and fills that hole inside is music, जो वैसे भी पूरी दुनिया को एक साथ बांध देता है. तो किस तरह का संगीत है जो आप सुनती हैं या आप सोचती हैं कि लोगों को सुनना चाहिए?
Indian culture is the only culture I know of that has an entire shastra dedicated to sound, Samved. And sound is that which changes the energy. And so music has the power.
Is there a particular raga that you like listening to?
For me, on a personal level, जो हमारे गंगा के किनारे जब आरती होती है, when Puja Swamiji sings the Sankirtan, when we chant the mantras, whether it's the yagna mantras, whether it's the puja mantras, whether it's the arti mantras, for me that's heavenly music. Jaya Gange Mata, Maya Jaya Gange Mata, Donare Tum Gata, Donare Maya Ji Go Gata, Manvan Chita whether we're chanting them in a mandir or a cathedral. The sounds were the same.
Quite amazing.
It was amazing, and it's what makes you realize that there is the science of sound. And this is where we really need to start looking at Sangeet, not just from an entertainment perspective, but for the value of actually helping us to co-create the world we want to live in.
That's something very important that you said, that we need to co-create the world we live in and we have to do everything possible to make a beautiful world. आज आप हमारे प्रोग्राम में आई, आपने हमसे ये सब बातें साझी की, उसके लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया.